Hello and welcome to the Relax, It's Retirement podcast with your host, Josh Leonard, where we talk about transitioning into retirement with intent. I'm Wendy McConnell. Hi, Josh. How you doing?
Wonderful. How are you today, Wendy?
I'm good. So it's just the two of us? It seems weird, strange.
Just the we could talk about Pete if you want.
Oh, I would love that. I'm kidding. We're gonna miss Pete, is what I'm
We
saying.
will, and he will be back soon. Don't you worry, Wendy.
Okay. All right. So today we're going to be navigating the shadows, the impact of social media on financial decisions. That sounds very deep.
Ominous, ominous. Yeah, um, yeah. I think it's one of the fears, much like online behavior in general that we experience. There is a subject to credibility of things, and one of the clips that I keep seeing, it probably knows that I geek out on this stuff, but it's some lady saying, "Oh, if you save $1 a day, do you know how much money you'd have at the end of a year?"
Well, you'd
And
be
then someone's like, "How much?" And
$364.
she's like, $30,000. And you're like, that doesn't math. Like, if you understand math at all, how many days are in a year?
That's not even close.
Like, no. Okay, even if it's no, that doesn't work if it's invested. So I think, one of the concerns that we have, like with other things online, is are we being hoodwinked, right? Is there something happening behind the scenes, or are people trying to get us to do something else as
Yeah,
well?
and that's one of my favorite words of all time, hoodwinked.
Oh, it's a great one. It's a great
I
one.
hate hoodwinkers.
Yeah, hoodwinkers. Well, this will be an anti-hoodwink. We'll retitle it anti-hoodwinking podcast.
Yes. All right. Let's get into it then. How do we avoid these hoodwinkers?
Yeah, so I think the first area that I want to talk about is just the allure of social media, in finance, right? So one of the things is finance is just hard, right? Things are complex. If we talk through the tax system, it's hard to understand, right? Yeah, we talk with clients about things like Medicare, and you're like, "Oh, okay, so I go on to Medicare, right? That's going to cover my stuff." Well, yeah, kind of. You have A, B, and then, oh yeah, you also take drugs. For some reason, well, that has to be a whole separate thing. And then we get through that, and well, you still need a dental plan if you want to go see the dentist too, right? Like there's so many layers to a lot of these things that we want it to be simple. And one of our jobs as a financial advisor is to make things simple for you, to help convey the complex into a simple, understandable thing. We are licensed individuals that also have to bear insurance, that if we are misleading someone or say something incorrectly or cause undue harm to a client, that we are financially responsible for it. The person that picks up their phone and records something and posts it on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, has no responsibility if you take action based on that. So many times people say things that are sensational and gain attention without, having real fact or any sort of risk or liability implicated to it.
Like the
So
$30,000 you can save in a
that's right.
year
Yeah.
with putting away just $1.
You know what? If there was some responsibility there, I'm going to save, 10, 20, $30 a day, and let's see if I get, I'll be retired before you know it, Wendy.
Oh, thank goodness. In fact, you were
And you
retired.
can too.
You were retired 3 years ago.
That's right. That's right. So I think that there's an allure to me that, oh, it's simple and you can do this, right? We all want a silver bullet. We all want everything to be fixed so easily. But life's complicated, right? I'm not going to make it up that mountain for my big bike race for this year by not training for it, right? I'm going to have to go through some discomfort and lots of training time in order to accomplish that goal. You know, so I think looking at these finfluencers, as they're often called, or financial influencers, we need to check their credibility. Now, that being said, we post to YouTube, we post to Facebook. There's a lot of financial advisors, or sometimes even other financial professionals, CPAs, that are posting relevant and important content to help people understand some of these complex things. But like most things, if it seems too easy to be true, we need to be a little bit careful there. I think there's a lot of risk to an individual, right? So again, if Wendy, you listen to this wonderful lady that tells you if you save $1 a day, you're going to have $30,000 at the end of the year, and you plan your finances accordingly, where you're going to have a bill come due of $30,000, well, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a ridiculous example, but I think even I kind of am subject to this a little bit, where there's like accounting ones, right? You'll see like, oh, I bought my G-Wagon for nothing, right? Because it's a tax write-off. Well, like that's not reality, right?
Right.
And there's certain limitations, and a lot of times even complex things like the tax code are oversimplified. And I brought one of these sort of things to the accountant that we use for the company, and I was like, oh, and he's like, oh man, he's like, it's so painful to listen to people recite back these common videos. So don't take action, right? You can try to gain an education, and if you find it entertaining, great. But let's be careful there, because your risk is the one that's high, not the person putting the content out there.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think we got to be careful there. Psychologically, it's easy for us to say, hey, this post has 2,000 views or 20,000 or 2 million likes, whatever huge group consensus, but that doesn't mean that they're all taking action on it. So you need to understand that taking action on these things is very different than listening to an entertaining post.
Okay. What else? Now we've got some risks and misconceptions.
Yeah, I think a lot of the risks and misconceptions go around this FOMO, right? This fear of missing out. So
Yes.
hey, you know what? Everyone else is doing this, so I need to too. Today, little secret here, we record these prior to, but I think another risk or misconception is we have like these meme stocks, right? Where people buy a lot. This morning, trading was stopped on GameStop again because it was going crazy, right?
Oh,
The price was fluctuating like crazy. It's not real, quote unquote, trading. It's people sort of manipulating the price based on this consensus. So we have to be careful there, but people jump on the bandwagon because, well, it's going up. I want to make money. Everyone else, my neighbor told me they made a bunch of money doing this, so I need to do it too. And I think that's where we get. So it's that herd mentality that everyone else is doing it, I'm going to jump in there too. And I think that really causes us long-term problems. We see this in behavior, meme stocks. I think Bitcoin at times can be sensational like that too, where people over-invest, right? Bitcoin itself is not necessarily a fraud or anything bad, but it's not one place for all your money, right? It's something that has a very high risk profile. So if you want to invest into something like that, you need to be realistic. You can't have, this crazy expectation that it's going to solve all your problems.
Yeah, you got to use just a little bit of common sense along with, again, what you had said earlier. If it seems too good to be true, probably is.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we've learned, so like some of the expert feedback that we hear is social media is all about just pumping up our dopamine, right? So whether it's the TikTok videos or it's reels or shorts, it's this ultra short format video where we see something that's pleasing to us and it's just quick, right? Like, and we feel better. We are thus more prone to act on that.
Yeah.
Because it makes us feel good, right? And
Yeah.
people sit there and scroll forever. And I'm guilty of getting stuck in these. Wendy, do you participate in any of these social platforms with the short?
Yeah, I admit it. Yes. Yeah, I've been told probably it's time to give your thumbs a rest.
Okay. So are you TikTok?
I am on TikTok. I know. Who can believe somebody my age?
I always say I'm too old for TikTok.
And that means I'm way too old as well.
I watch the videos reposted from TikTok on Instagram.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I'm a TikToker. Don't be jelly.
Okay. See, yeah, that doesn't even,
That's probably outdated already.
Well, maybe. I still don't even understand that. We could do a whole separate episode on younger generation slang because it doesn't make any sense to me. I saw a funny video this weekend, though, that this guy had this picture of an alpaca up. And he said, I don't know if anyone else realized this, but every male from age 14 to like 22 looks like an alpaca now. And he showed various pictures of like high school boys where they have this big curly kind of, it's just like curly hair thing.
Yes, yes,
Like
yes.
an alpaca. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. I didn't understand what this haircut thing, like real tight on the sides, real long on the top. It's a new thing, but I guess I'm just getting old, Wendy.
A little puffy there.
Yeah. But speaking of age and social platforms, I think that that's one of the risks too, is I think sometimes we don't fully understand what's happening. And what's happening in those feeds when you're watching the videos, it keeps feeding you the same things. So if you are appealed to some sort of financial thing, it's going to keep feeding you that content that you like to see, thus perpetuating your potential for that activity. So that's what they say, that self-pleasing nature of it can cause us to get into problems over time. Now, of course, there is very credible people on these platforms as well. And you can certainly listen and become more educated on it. Where we need to be careful is any scams or anything like that. So, if you've engaged, sometimes they are like mastermind classes, right? On like, make all your money in real estate in 1 week, right?
Yeah. Not good.
And if you're that wealthy from selling real estate, why do you need an online class to educate other people doing it?
Hoodwinkers.
Yes, we have to be careful for those.
Okay.
So, I think we're putting together a newsletter that will link in the show notes here that people can read through some of this material as well, get a better understanding of some of these different scams or risks that we've seen throughout. I think it's an important subject that's often overlooked. We'll hear about different financial tools and products too, where maybe a salesperson that can only sell one type of financial tool is promoting this as sort of a cure-all, right? It's that old snake oil, right? So I've seen some around life insurance that, life insurance does have substantial tax benefits and the ability to use it like a savings account as well, where you can accumulate cash in it. But many times people are promoting it that it has above market returns with no risk and you can take all your money out tax-free and everything. Well, again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right?
So is there a way to really discern between a credible financial education versus the online influencers?
Yeah, so I think you can look up who this individual is. So typically, if you click through a profile, if they are a licensed individual, they will have to have some sort of linking to a website that then that licensing is disclosed. If you know their real name, so not like just a social media name, you can look them up. So broker check through FINRA is a big one for financial advisors. You can look and see their licensing. If they've had any activities or complaints in the past as well. So this is a good thing in general if you're interviewing an advisor or looking. It's part of the disclosures that we have to provide to someone before they're working with us. But this is public information. Anyone can look it up online. If you search through broker check, you can see if there's been any misbehavior or lawsuits filed against this individual in the past and of what nature they are. So that's a very important resource. If you're concerned about something that just so happens to pop up that they've also had a lawsuit around this in the past, well, buyer beware, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a good safeguard. I think online reputation is not always in-person reputation as well. So especially if you're working with a financial advisor, it's always good to, know some other individuals that they work with, or you can even ask to see, or we do a lot of client events with our clients in Pittsburgh. That's a great way that we've been able to connect with other folks outside of our exact client group. They can bring friends and family there, so they get to meet us in person prior to sitting down with us in the financial advisor role. So more of a social role first.
Great.
Oh, did you start to say
I
something?
said great.
Oh, okay. Um, I think we want to. Wow, I'm struggling today, Wendy. I need Pete.
I'm a little I was just a little confused on where we were. Are we on 4 with the listener interaction?
Uh, yeah. I feel like we're just short here. I'm running out of talking
No,
points
you
and
don't.
feel like I'm
It's
going
fine.
through.
We're 15 minutes in, and I would rather be a little short than to have
Okay.
you struggle for things to say. It'll be fine. Yeah. So
Okay.
let's go to number 4, and we'll pick up from there. Okay.
Okay. So if you've ever been on a social media site, whether you're as cool as Wendy and you're on TikTok, or maybe it's just on Facebook, which is for the old people, or
Yeah.
Instagram if you're still kind of cool. Um, Whatever the social media platform is, if you have any people that you've listened to or advice that you've got from someone and you'd like us to kind of review it and let you know, hey, here is a way you could kind of check the credibility of this individual, feel free to contact us through the show notes. We'd be happy to review that material with you and kind of do a fact or fiction based on what the people are saying there and help you discern that credibility. As we started posting more YouTube videos and stuff, we had a few clients say, oh, do you know this other advisor? Some of their videos have popped up for me as well. And I did a similar action where I went through and looked at their material and said, oh, it's very reputable. This is also good information to watch. But you want to be certainly careful there. I think reading through our newsletter, sharing this information with other individuals, many times we have friends that we are interacting with, and they'll say, oh, I heard this. And you might put on your skeptical glasses and say, I'm not, they might be hoodwinking you, right? We'll go back to hoodwink. It's a good thing to check out, right? We
Yeah.
want to be careful that we're not falling into a trap there. And by sharing information with our friends and loved ones, we might give them some framework to help assess whether they're, properly dealing with their money. I would say in general, too, always be careful. If you're actually investing money into something, look up the institutions associated.
Yeah, and I
We
think part of the problem is so many people just don't want to take that extra step. They see something, they like what they see, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sure it's good," because what you mentioned earlier, oh, it's got like 2,500 views, so it must
Mhm.
be. They could be laughing at the guy 2,500 times. You know what I mean? Like you just don't
That's
know.
true.
So
Yeah.
you really need to just take that extra step and investigate a little bit.
I think so. Yeah, I think that extra step of investigation. If you are directly investing in something, look up the institutions involved. Like for us, we are a financial advisory practice, but we partner with other businesses. So in our disclosures, you see that relationship, and I think the ultimate hoodwinker in our industry has been Bernie Madoff, right? And one
Ugh.
of the issues in his structure was that he was the investment guy, he was the portfolio manager, he was also the advisor, and he was the custodian. He was the one holding the shares, he was the one trading the shares, and he was the one meeting with people.
Yeah, he had
So
no
he
one
had
to
that.
answer to.
That's it. He had that full, well, apparently regulators, but not quick enough.
Eventually.
Um, yeah, but like for us, we always partner with a third party custodian. We use many third party managers as well to help keep that transparent to clients. We have no way that we could misstate returns to a client, which was exactly what Bernie Madoff was doing. He was just taking money in, making up fake statements and sending them out to folks. Of course, since he was found out, there's been new regulations in place to help protect consumers more. But many times, much like his returns, if it seems too good to be true, you need to be a
Yes.
little bit careful
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. Watch out for those hoodwinkers.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think always being skeptical, keeping an eye on what folks are doing is going to be the biggest help for us. So when you see those social media things online, just remember it's there for entertainment value. These systems are there to make you entertained and keep you watching them. So then they can sell paid advertising to you. So, be skeptical. But there's lots of great resources online as well. Just make sure you're using a credible source, right? In college, we always used to say Wikipedia could be something to start with, but you certainly can't cite Wikipedia in a paper you're writing, right? You need the actual study that Wikipedia might be referencing. Some of these financial influencers might be citing something real, so go back to that citation source then.
Or do it really old school like I did and use, instead of Wikipedia, encyclopedia.
That's right. That's right. You have to have all of those books lined up, Wendy.
Thank goodness we don't need a shelf spot for those anymore, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I don't think anyone's going door to door selling them anymore either.
No. Well, they used to be, it was like $1,000 for a full set of it.
It was a big thing. You made it when you had that.
Oh my God. And like, again, we're thinking like in the 80s. So like $1,000 back then was like $10,000 today.
But that's how you had a true reference point, though, Wendy, back to your point. So,
and yeah, it was stigma too. You had a really good stigma attached to you if you could afford those bad boys. So there you go.
Yeah. Yep. Certainly so. Well, yeah, Wendy, I think for listeners today, let's make sure that they're not hoodwinked, right? So we'll be careful. If you're researching financial topics and you have questions, you can always reach out to us. A link for a 15-minute call will be in the show notes. Make sure you like, subscribe, and sign up for the newsletter that will also have linked in there to get great resources like we talked about today.